Alright, so here's the monkey. Just got back from a ride, sunset ride. I have over 600 miles, I think 650, 660, something like that. So my chain here, I noticed on this last ride it's a little bit loose. It's actually on the previous ride I noticed it was loosening up. So the specification for the slackness here is 35 millimeters from the bottom to the top, right, of movement. So that's what it says over here, 35 millimeters or 1 3/8. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna measure. I don't have a metric tape measure, so I'm gonna use the 1 3/8, the inches. So what you do is you find the center of the chain. So basically from where it pivots here, this front sprocket, to the obviously the axle. So that's the middle to pivot here. So somewhere in the middle of that. So which is about right here. So then I'm gonna use my tape measure. Just put it right there, like so. Push it down, and look for a spot. I'm gonna look at the bottom here of this edge. So that's what I'm gonna be measuring from this link right here. So the bottom of that, it shows 2 1/4. Oops, my tape measure move. Let me redo it again. So 2 1/4. And the top is 3/4. So 3/4 to 2 1/4. So that's an 1.5 inches. All right, that's an 1.5 inches. So we wanted, what was it, 1 3/8, 1.5 inches. So let's go over here, 1.5 inches. 1 3/8 is so basically this is an 1/8 of an inch to slack. 1 3/8 is an 1/8 shorter than 1.5 inches. Okay, so we know it's 2 slack, and that's only one point. This is, I just randomly chose this spot because it's of this part of the chain, because it's the it was just there. But what you really want to do is you actually want to find the loosest spot of the chain. So you basically just spin the wheel along until you feel that the spot that's tightest. So remember that the sprockets themselves, they're not perfectly round, perfectly concentric. So there's always going to be a spot that's a little bit looser and a spot that's a little bit tighter. And right now the chain is so loose that it's hard to tell. It's hard to find that spot. So basically, I'm going to tighten it up a little bit, and to find the tighter spot. So the tightest spot, then I could actually do my wheel adjustment from there, my wheel measurement from there, I should say. So on the back side, there's 14 millimeter, and the other side is 19 millimeters. And this one right here, I think I'm not sure if it's a 10 or 8. Let's see, I got a 10 millimeter right here. So that's not a 10, so it's an 8 then. It's an 8. Yep, it's an 8 millimeter. So that's all you need is a 14, 19, and an 8. So you gotta loosen up the axle, right? So the axle nut is 19, and the axle bolt is 14. So let me loosen those up. And the bolt is, the axle bolt is solid on this side. So you actually want to spin it from the non-solid side, basically the nut side. So there's the nut side, so this is the side that you spin. Okay. Spin this side. If you try to spin the other side, you're fighting a lot of resistance. You're fighting the resistance of not just the tightness of the how much it's torqued down, but you're also fighting the resistance of the whole entire length of the axle that's being clamped down. So I think that should be enough. But actually, let me loosen a little bit more, just to make sure that it's it really that I could freely spin the tensioner, the chain tensioner, and it doesn't drag too much. It doesn't, I don't have too much resistance. Actually, one other thing that you should check that most people don't, and I don't usually do this, or I only usually do this once, and once I have it, you know, I could figure it out from there. But you want to check the distance from your axle here to your pivot point down over here. All right, so let's look at that again. So the axle here, all the way to the pivot point here. You want to check that because you want to check basically both both sides, so that way you know that your axle and your pivot point is parallel. And that's when you actually have your full you know you're starting at the proper chain length, because if your axle is not parallel with your pivot point, then your chain adjustment will be actually off, and your wheel won't be true to the center line of the bike. So this one is showing me 15 and 2, 4, 5, 15 and 5/16. 15 and 5/16. 15 and 5/16. Let's go back to this side. 15 and 5/16. Let's see if I can get the same measurement over here. So this is factory, right? Factory measurement. I did loosen it, but that shouldn't make a difference. 15 and 5/16. 15 and yep, it's perfect. Okay, so 15 and 5/16, so it's good. So now I know that the axle and the pivot point, the wheel axle and the pivot point axle center is parallel. Now when I make my adjustment here, I just turn it the same amount. So you just look at the flat sides here, you know, at your nut. On your nut here, look at the flat side and count how many flat sides you spun it, basically. So that's what I'm gonna do. Let's see. So right now I'm starting at the flat spot on top. So let's spin it basically half a turn. Half a turn. So basically, my wrench here is at the 6 o'clock position. I'm gonna spin it so that way the wrench is at 12 o'clock. So that's half a turn right there. Flat sides on top, right? So that's half a turn. So I spun it clockwise. So clockwise spins actually I spun it the wrong way, because if you spin it clockwise, the nut will actually go in. When the nut goes in, you actually get more slack. So you want to spin it so that way the nut goes out. So actually I spun it the wrong way to tighten it. So let's go out, back to my original half turn. Okay. Then half turn out. So I want to take up, I want to remove slack, right? So I want to remove slack, so I just did that. That should remove some slack there, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Half a turn, half a turn. So let's see. Quarter turn right there. Turn. That's about half a turn right there. Okay. So once you have that, yeah, just because you did that doesn't mean that the slack was taken up, because how the chain adjustment works. Let's give a wider view here. How it works is that when you turn the bolt in, it actually brings the wheel. It wants to bring the wheel more forward, so you have more slack. When you turn it out, like lefty loosey, it backs the bolt out, so that way you have more space to pull the wheel back to take up slack. So I basically gave it more space to give the wheel more space so I could pull it back. So since I didn't move the wheel at all, the slack should be the same. So after I gave it some space, now what you need to do is you need to basically pull the wheel back. Okay. So pull the wheel back a little bit. So that's how it usually goes. Actually, this one you don't actually need that. I take that back. You know what? The way how this is designed, this is different from other bikes. The design on this, because of this thing right here, this horseshoe shape, this U-shaped bracket here, this actually moves the axle for you. So actually, I didn't have to do anything at all. It's fixed to the axle. So oh, that's cool. So usually you have to, like, you know, play around with that stuff, but this one's not. Oh, that's cool. That's perfect. So I take that back. So now I'm gonna measure again. So last time was, what was it, 1.5 inch of slack. So I'm gonna look for 1 3/8. So I'm gonna go about halfway where the chain and pivot point is. So right about there. Let me push this thing up. So I have 1 1/4. Push it down. Ooh, 1 1/4. So it's only 1 inch. So it definitely got tighter. I could feel it too. I could feel it. It's actually tighter than before. That was only half a turn of the nut. So actually, I probably only needed 1/4 of a turn. But since it's pretty tight right now, I'm gonna look for the tight spot. So that's pretty tight right there. So I'm just gonna feel, and I'm gonna move this thing up and down. When I feel more looseness, I know that's a loose spot. Then when I feel more tightness, then I know that's the tight spot. Sometimes you might find more than one tight spot and more than one loose spot. But usually it seems like it's about right there. Let's see. Yeah, right around here somewhere. So right around there is the tightest spot. Okay, so I found the tightest spot. Now I could check this again. Let's see, so push it up. Let's adjust my chain adjuster here. So I'm at the bottom, I'm at 2. At the top, I'm barely at 1. So there's less than, there's just like a 16th less than an inch. So I need to loosen it up. I'll go back to my nut adjuster here. So last time I tightened up the chain, tightened up this nut, or backed it out, I should say, to make the chain tighter, half a turn. So I'm gonna go back in, or bring the wheel back forward, 1/4 turn then. So it was my I'm gonna start out to 6 o'clock. Excuse me, 6 o'clock. Loosen it up by half a turn. Excuse me, 1/4 turn. Same thing with the other side. I'm gonna do the other side as well. So let's see. Turn on this side. It's kind of different. Okay. Oh shit. Oops. Just about a 1/4 turn back in. This side's definitely looser. This side's nice and tight over here. Seems like usually when you do a chain adjustment, the left side is always, the chain side is always tighter because it doesn't move as much because of the tension of the chain. Whereas the non-chain side, it's usually looser. That's kind of normal. Okay, let's go back to this. Let's try this again. Oh, I feel it looser now. So the bottom of my chain there is 1 inch. Bottom of the chain here is just 1.25 inches, almost 1.25 inches. So I need a little bit more slack. So half a turn was not enough. I'm gonna go a little bit more, just a tiny bit more. Probably like an 1/8 of a turn. So 1/8 of a turn. So for my original measurement, it actually only needed 1/8 of a turn tighten. The chain only needed to be tightened about 1/8 of a turn. I'm gonna hit this thing, hit this tire so that way it moves forward. Make sure it moves forward even though those sprocket things are there. It's a good idea to just do that, just in case. So here I'm at an inch. There. Pretty close. That seems just about right. That seems just about right there. Let's see. So I'm just gonna tighten it up. There you go. So I only need to move the actual adjuster an eighth of a turn. So tighten it up, and you always tighten from the nut side. So you don't want to tighten this side. This side you're just holding it, just not just the bolt here. You're just holding it. You want to tighten it from this side here. This side here. So do that now. So I'm gonna tap my wheel forward one last time just to make sure. When I do this, I wanna. Sometimes I like to put my knee and push it forward, so that way the wheel doesn't move. You know, the wheel, the axle center doesn't move back and forth. So I like to do that. Just put a little bit of pressure on it, a little weight forward. And I'm not sure what the torque setting on this. When I do this, I usually just do it by hand. I think the torque setting on this is probably, I don't know, somewhere between 60 and 80 foot-pounds. Probably not 80. It looks like this bolt diameter and thread doesn't seem like it's 80, might be on the high side. But it should be at least 60, maybe 70. I'm just gonna do it by feel, like I always do usually. Okay, I'm good there. That should be good. And one last thing to do is check the tension again, because usually what happens when you loosen and tighten the axle, sometimes it will show a different reading on the chain itself. So you also want to make sure you do a final check on that. And that looks good. Okay, I'm good. So that the whole putting my knee in the back and make sure everything's forward, that will help reduce the movement of this here. So if you don't have that, and this your axle might not be parallel with your pivot point center, so when you tighten this up, it might square out, and also you might get it might become looser or tighter. So that's why I like to push everything forward, so that way it minimizes that. Basically, it saves you time. Okay, so I'm good here. I believe I'm good. I'm gonna do one quick spin again. Yes, just it always doesn't hurt to check. Man, this thing has it's pretty concentric. Hardly has any. I can hardly feel like a tight spot or a loose spot. No, it feels almost the same the whole way. So almost the same. There is a tiny little loose spot, tight spot, but not much of a difference. Some sprockets, it's a lot more. There's a bigger difference. It could be because of the length. The longer this length is, and also the bigger the difference in size in the sprocket, the more of a difference there is in the slack. The smaller the sprockets here are, or they're less slack and less length too. Less of a difference. I believe that's the reason why there isn't that much of a tight spot or a loose spot, of a difference. Okay, so I'm gonna call it good. So I had just cleaned the chain before I did this. Now I actually needed a little bit, and I clean WD-40, spray as I spin the chain. I spray it with WD-40, let it soak for like 5 minutes, wipe it down, wipe it all off, because WD-40 is not a lubricant. It's a great solvent to clean. Then after that, I wipe it as clean as I can, then I will go in with gear oil. So this chain is, it's a non-O-ring chain, which is actually kind of cool, because O-ring chains, yeah, they're okay. But anyways, that's a different subject. All right, so thanks for watching.